Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And basically, we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiastes, the first chapter today. And, the book of Ecclesiastes, just a bit of context here, this was written by King Solomon. Okay, so you would imagine that this would be right around during the reign of King Solomon. And if we look up King Solomon over here, wow, definitely not what he looked like. But in any case, let's look up here. So his predecessor or his father was David, right? And his son Rehoboam. And so the time frame here that's given to King Solomon in terms of his reign was right around 970 to 931. Not sure where this hypothesized is, whether it's in terms of like maybe when he reigned, but in any case, right around this time, right? So it's during his time that he ends up writing these books here, because it wasn't just Ecclesiastes. There's also songs of Solomon and so on and so forth. So at this time, we know, in terms of historical context, Israel is the sort of like the dominant power in the Near East at this point. The Edomites, the Moabites, the Ammonites, like all these nations have been subjected under Israel by the reign of King David with the wars that he made. And so during this time of King Solomon, these nations are more so tributary onto us, in a way. So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, and this being King Solomon, of course. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And vanity, right, when we go into vanity here, it's when you think of something that's vain, it's like pointless. No matter how exciting it may be, it doesn't hold too much weight. It's temporal, right? So you can see here for the word vanity, it's habal, right, which is vapor, breath, vainly, and the reason is because it's short-lived. So as you can see here, it says emptiness or vanity, figuratively, something transitory or unsatisfactory. So like your breath, if you in the wintertime you like exhale, you can see your breath, but it's temporal, it's quick, and then it disappears. So that's sort of what is the narrative, the theme that King Solomon is trying to convey here, is about how everything is vain. And he's going to go into why he says that. So verse 3, what profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? So remember that King Solomon was granted wisdom above all that came before him, right? He was a very wise man. And so with all the things that he experienced and experiments he conducted, he's asking here, so of all the labors that you go through, right, in growing and building and spending and buying, and starting a family, doing all of these things, what is the actual core benefit of it? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So there's more proof for you concerning, the end of the world, right? In some cases, you may read in another verse and you might get confused and think, wait, this verse is talking about the earth being destroyed, but we know that the earth in itself is going to remain continually. And you can think of the generations are more so like recycled in a way. So it's the same earth, right? Same planet, it's just different time period, and different spirits coming upon the earth and back in the spirit world and so on and so forth. And that's why it's referred to as the cycle of life, because it's a cycle. Verse 5, the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he rose. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. And a circuit, we know, is like it's like a closed route. You can think of like a circle, right? That you start at one point, you end at the same point. Maybe it looks more like maybe a bit of a deformed circle. Like if you just throw a rubber band on the floor, and it just like lays in a weird shape, it still closes and on all sides. If you start at one point and you follow the trail, eventually you'll end up right back at that same point. So here he talks about the sun, the properties of the sun, of the wind, how it moves, because he had understanding of all of these things. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. So if you look at a stream or a certain river, yes, you see that there's water constantly flowing from that, and it's constantly flowing into a larger body of water. And yet, some way, somehow, as he mentions here, the sea or this larger body of water is never overrun, it's never filled, it's never, like if you were pouring water from your kitchen sink into a water bottle, at some point the water bottle would overflow with water. But if you look at how these streams flow into the ocean or the sea never gets too full. And likewise, the reason these streams constantly have water is because they return right back. It's a cycle. The water is like naturally recycled, so to speak. So there's always water flowing. All things are full of labor, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. All right, so with all the kind of labor, it's so much that you can't even tell, like the fullness of it. But here, as it mentions, the eye is not satisfied with seeing, in a sense that, you don't wake up at one point and then your eyes are like, okay, I'm not going to work anymore because I've seen enough. There's no such thing. You can never see enough. You can never hear enough. You can never see too much. You can never hear too much. You're always listening, right? You're always seeing. Verse 9, the thing that have been, so the sort of, when it comes to these kinds of books, right, they are more so like wise thoughts and observations and conclusions that King Solomon came to, that he sort of noted down. So sometimes one verse does link into another verse and it's talking about the same thing, and other times it's just literally like verses of different thoughts and ideas that they're considered wise, and they're just arranged in that order. So it's not in any particular chronological order. Okay. Verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. The thing that hath been, meaning history. History repeats itself. What has happened in the past is what's going to happen again. All right, and that which is done is that which shall be done. What happened in the past is repeated now, and what happens now is repeated in the future. In other words, the history repeats itself, and so there's no new thing under the sun. It's just the same thing done in different ways, under maybe different conditions. It's one example here I can think of is, since creation, man has been eating. That never changes. Whether the food they eat is different, how they prepare it is different, how they may eat it is different, but eating always stays the same. It's not a new concept. The way man lives today, you just as you needed food and shelter and protection and all those things back then, you need it now. Verse 10, is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. To reinforce that point above of there not being any new thing under the sun. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So, in other words, we don't remember our past, right? We don't remember past things. And in fact, that's why we record. We have records, because through those records, we gain knowledge into what has happened in the past, right? Now, it's interesting because actually, when you're reading about history, you feel like you're learning something new because you don't remember it. Okay? And also, which also explains why when understanding reincarnation being biblical, when you come on the earth again, you don't recall your past lives. And there's a reason for that. The Lord has that done deliberately. So as it says, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after, right? So just like now, you can't remember the things of the past. In the future, they can't remember the things of now, right? And like I explained, save through record keeping and so on. And even still, it's like remembrance through learning and not so remembrance through just pure recollection. Verse 12, I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. And the heart here meaning his mind. In the Hebrew, the word there is lab, which means your mind. So he set up his mind and his time to learn and understand and to seek out all the things by wisdom, all the things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man, to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, meaning on the earth, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Now, when you look into this, right, we went into what vanity means. But in actuality, vexation of spirit here, initially you might think it means like in a literal sense, your spirit getting vexed. But in actuality, it's more so along the lines here of it's pointless, right? All is vanity and pointless, it's like chasing the wind. And when you look into the Hebrew here for first for vexation, right? You have what's that, iwath, and it says here longing or striving, right? Or i.e. grasping after. And when you look into the word spirit, right, you have here the word, here they have rawach, all right, or rauch, we pronounce it as racha, right? So raucha, and there are a couple of use cases here, right? You have spirit, meaning the actual spirit, the life force, right? The vigor, the vivacity, right? Spirit. And then you also have breath or wind. So when you actually look up the use cases here, I think they should have it here, right? This section here in the Blue Letter Bible, right? KJV translation count. This here is showing you how many ways this word is used in what different context that is used within. So when you come across the Hebrew word racha, in what use cases can it be found? So 232 times in the scriptures it is used to refer to like spirit or spirit, capital or lowercase. 92 times is referred to as the wind, right? 27 times is referred to as breath, and then so on and so forth. Okay, and so you have to use the context to understand, okay, what is the actual meaning that can be derived from the use case of racha in this verse. And you can see that in some other verses here, you have, for example, breath, right? Breath, mind, wind, right? And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. And the word there for wind is the same word, racha. So combining the word for vexation, right, which is like a grasping after or striving or longing, and in the word racha in the meaning of wind, in other words, what King Solomon is saying here is all is vanity, and it's like grasping after the wind, which is pointless. Verse 15, that which is crooked, and one more thing on that, because technically not everything is a vexation of spirit, right? There's some things that you may do that may be vain, but it may be fun, and it may not be something that vexes your spirit, right? And why is King Solomon saying this? Because at the end of the day, excluding this truth, right, this ministry that we have and these works which follow us wherever we go, everything else is temporary. In fact, our lifespan is also short. So as we keep on reading in Ecclesiastes, you'll find out, as King Solomon expounds upon, that you gather all these riches, you work so hard, you go through all of this, and it's not going to be with you forever. You're going to lose it. And when you come back on the earth again, you got to start back up again. So it's pointless. You gain all this wisdom, all this knowledge, all this understanding, but there's no remembrance of it when you come back again. So it's just like playing a game where you can reach the highest level possible, but your high score is never saved. And you just had to start again. Verse 15, that which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. Right? So if something is lacking, then it can't be counted. And if something is crooked, it can be made straight. Similar to, I think it's in the book of Job, right? The Lord mentions that, can a crooked come out of a straight come out of the crooked, and a clean come out of the unclean, roughly paraphrasing, meaning what the Lord has set up, how it's going to be is how it's going to stay, or how he set it up is how it's going to stay, unless he changes it. Verse 16, I communed with mine own heart, saying, lo, I am come to great estate. So he thought within himself, right? Meditated, saying, look, I'm in a great position, right? I'm a king, I'm rich, and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. So I'm in a good position. I've been blessed with an immense amount of wisdom, with great experience with it. And I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. And I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. So that's also pointless. Like he looked into the right hand side, he looked into the left hand side. Folly, man, he looked into all of these things to understand. And once again, it's vexation of spirit. And it makes me think of Romans 11:7, right? What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, right? But the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. In the sense that it's like what Yahushua told the woman at the well in John, the 4th chapter, that if you drink of this water, the living water that he had, that you would never thirst again. And similarly, like King Solomon is saying here, it's like saying drinking water is pointless, because you're never going to satisfy that thirst. You're always going to keep getting thirsty again and again and again. So you're doing all of this, whether you are super knowledgeable on the left hand or on the right hand, it's all still gonna be pointless anyway. Verse 18, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. And it's interesting that he mentions this, because especially in this world, the conclusion that you come to as you learn more and your eyes are open and you gain more wisdom and knowledge is you start to see things for what they are. And no longer are you granted the sweetness of ignorance being bliss, right? The blissness of ignorance. You no longer have that because you're no longer ignorant. Okay? If you look at babies cry. But babies cry for a reason. They're either scared, they're hungry, they're in pain, or something like that. Then they cry. But other than that, they're laughing, they're giggling, they're screaming, they're always smiling, because they don't really have many things to worry about. And that's because they don't really understand too much. But you notice, as you start to grow older, with your mind opening up, with understanding the meaning of things, there's so much more you have to worry about. There's so much more you stress about. And there are more times when you're stressed or serious or sad or angry than there are when you're actually smiling and laughing. Really think about it, right? Like, the emotions that we express, like happiness, right? If they consider that emotion, but happiness and like joy, they're synonymous, right? But that's like maybe two, right? If you say like you're elated, you're happy, you may say you're excited. The comparison of the good emotions versus the negative ones, it almost seems as though the negative ones outweigh the good ones, there's anger, there's annoyance, there's sorrow, you know, there's like grief, right? There's like, and some of these are synonymous. There's envy. There's all these negative emotions out there compared to a few positive ones. But all in all, tying it back to Ecclesiastes 1 and 18, the more you know and the more you understand, you know, the more sorrow and grief there is, because you start to see the world in a state. Even at the time of King Solomon, though he was in rulership, the world was not a paradise as it was created to be. And the more you realize that, the more grief and sorrow you feel, because now you start to actually yearn for that eternal, rest. But you realize you can't achieve it at that time or at that moment. You know, and in a way, on a lower level, we sort of experience that now. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiastes, the first chapter. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.